Hey guys, and welcome to another guide. Today we're going to be going over something that's pretty helpful in moving forward because it's going to be action bar binding, and you're going to need this for any styles, anything you do. It's basically just making that your action bars kind of work for you and switch when you switch weapons, and you can do a whole bunch of different things and kind of setting all that up. So I cleared out my bars, and you'll see that I have all 5 bars up. And to start, the way you get to that is you're going to go to your settings, and you're going to go to your action bars. And to start, you want to have your display additional action bars. I have these ones cleared out, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I have those displayed, 11, 12, 13, 14. Obviously, when you're starting, you do not need to have all 5 bars. That might be a lot, that might be overwhelming. So what we're going to do is we're not going to display a couple of them. We're going to start kind of at the top and work our way down as to what and why and how. So for starters, we have action bar 8, and I'm going to be using kind of melee as a reference, and then I'll have necromancy weapons just to show swapping back and forth. But for starters, we have action bar 8 has nothing in it. So we're going to start with dual wield melee because we can isolate between dual wield and two-handed gear. So we're going to go to our settings, and we're going to go to action bar binding. And we're going to specifically pick, there's melee any, dual wield, two-handed. And that's kind of for all the styles. There's that for ranged, magic, necromancy. But we're going to pick specifically melee dual wield. And we want this to specifically work on our main action bar. That's like kind of your revolution bar or your main abilities bar or whatever you're doing. And we're going to make it to action bar 8. So now we have action bar preset is main, it's dual wield. And when you do this, also make sure you actually have action bar binding toggled on. And I like to have this, it just switches your bars. So if you load a preset with a different style, it'll automatically swap over. So now that we did that, if I equip necromancy, we'll see it goes automatically to my necro bar, which is 16. And then if we put on our melee, it goes back to 8. And that's that, all in a nutshell, straightforward. But now we also want to have our melee two-handed. So we're going to set up our two-handed, our main action bar, and for that one, we'll set it to action bar 15, because that one's also cleared up. So now, when we swap back and forth between our melee two-handed, it goes to 15, and then dual wield, it goes to 8. So that's step 1, and now we can take that bar and we can fill it with whatever revolution bar you want to do. You can take it and go to your abilities, and you can load it up with however you want it to be. I'll post in the description the wiki, which gives different bars for revolution or manual, however you want to do it, but that's just for another day. This is just for the action bar binding, so that's good and dandy. Now what we want to do is we want to add another action bar, because one is fine for revolution, but when you're moving forward, you're going to want to kind of have some prayer flicks and some defensives, and you want all that accessible. So let's add in the first bar. Well, I guess we'll do it this way at the top. If we do none, we'll add it up here the way I have it set up. And that's bar 11. And we're going to go back to our action bar binding, but now we have bar 11 in. So just for a quick example, let's say we have, some abilities in here, and this is our bar, and good and dandy. So be it. That's fine. However, there are some abilities that are one specific to dual wield and two-hand. Like we have cleave, which is a two-hand specific. We have our dual wield specific, which is frenzy. So that's the reason why we want different bars for different weapons, because we want to have dual wield specific abilities on one bar, two-hand specific abilities on the other. However, what I like to do is directly under that is this kind of almost, I view it as like a secondary bar, but it's the just overall style specific bar. And that's where we'd want to put stuff like our berserk. We might want to just, for ease of our heads, we might want to put just our actual DPS prayer in there that's specific to that style. We might want to put, for melee specifically, you might want to put Chaos Roar, because it doesn't matter if you're in two-hand or dual wield. You might want to use that for any situation. So this secondary bar is kind of no matter if you're in dual wield or two-hand, this is generic style stuff. For mage, you might want to have your sunshine here. For ranged, your death swiftness. And even for necromancy, maybe this is where you want your, living death to be, or your skulls, some of your more, again, style generic abilities. And so what we're going to do for this is bar 11, we're going to go to settings, and for our action bar binding, we're going to select melee anything. So it doesn't matter if it's two-handed, it doesn't matter if it's dual wield, it doesn't matter what it is. We're going to have it selected. It might be some experimenting on how you have your interface set up on which bar it is, 1, 2, 3. So I have like 1 at the bottom, 4 at the top. And then we're going to select bar 11. So now what that means is no matter if I swap to dual wield and two-hand, bar 11 stays. But if I swap off, you can see for necromancy I have 16 and 18, and then I go back to melee and it's 8 and then 11. So no matter what melee I use, the main bar changes. The secondary bar, though, only ever changes to the style you're picking. And that's kind of the real quick basics on action bar binding. And you can do that, you'll see I have it, you can do it for every single style. Do magic any, it's that additional one, and then dual wield and two-hand each have their own bar. And I have some open ones. Those would be, I'm saving those for if I ever get into ranged one day. And then there's necromancy. And then for your action bar, so we'll display, as you move along, you want to just start adding bars and adding bars. And so you'll have, you'll start small. Honestly, you can even just start with 2 bars, and you'll find yourself as you move along and as you kind of grow, you'll want to start adding bars. So you'll see I have this QERTY. I still use WSAD to move my camera around, but my QER and T and Y, those are where my hand sits naturally. So like you put defensives there, prayer flicks, and you're just going to want to slowly build your bars as you find, hey, I want defensives, hey, I want to, add things. Just start with your main 2 bars that are for your style that you're doing, and then slowly go from there, because if you go too quickly, you'll overwhelm yourself. It'll seem like a lot. And just a couple kind of notes as you're doing this and as you're binding things and setting up your bars, you can actually drag your physical spaces on your character onto the bar. So for me, I have the pocket slot on K usually, and what that does for me is that lets me turn on and off any of the books that I'm using at any time, and it won't matter what book it is or how you do it. So if I, drag my full book there, I can only ever use the full book, and I'll wear it. You can keybind to wear it, you can keybind to activate and deactivate. But if you drag the pocket slot itself, you'll see that no matter what book I wear, it changes for it, as opposed to being locked to just that. And that's just kind of one example of a whole bunch of weird and cool key binding things you can do that I would definitely recommend. Another kind of little neat thing that some people know, some people don't, is you can drag individual items, but beyond that, you can actually drag food, and if you want, you can drag specific food. So like this would be blubbers and jellies. But also what you could do is, instead of blubbers, in your defensives, there's this eat food, basic ability. And if you drag that, then this is called tick eating, where you see I have it on Alt 2 and Alt 3. So if I have my hand resting where it does, and I hit Alt with my thumb, and then I hit 2 and 3 at the same time, then you'll see it took a sip of the brew and the blubber at the same exact time. Now, just so you know, when you do something like that, the way the eat food works is it will automatically draw and eat the first thing in your inventory. So now the blue blubber's over there, then the shark is first. So now it's going to eat the shark as opposed to, say that, and it's going to eat the shark as opposed to doing the blubber. Just keep that in mind when you're kind of setting up your inventory. It does go in order of first to last. And that's kind of the majority of everything. Just know you can do all kinds of things with your action bars. You can drag, your weapon specs, your EOFs. Pretty much everything can be brought onto the action bar, and you can toggle it for whatever you need to set up. So if you have important defensives that you use more often than not, resonance, devotion, just kind of make sure you set it up in a way that flows well and makes sense. Then there's the outliers that you don't use as much. You can maybe manually click on them or make them a little bit harder to reach. But this is just the general overview on action bar binding. I really hope it helps everybody, and best of luck.